In this tutorial, we're going to look at how to change image dimensions in GIMP. You want the image files you use on your site to be saved at the same dimensions they're going to be displayed, which means you might need to resize them. In these examples, imagine that we want to show a square image on our site that's 300 pixels wide and 300 pixels tall. If the image file is larger than we want it to appear on the site, the image will take longer to load, and it might increase your hosting costs. So we want to reduce the size of the image to make it the same dimensions that it'll be shown on the site. Unfortunately, if an image is too small and you try to show it larger, it can look grainy. This image was only 50 pixels by 50 pixels, and it doesn't look good when we increase the size, so we'd have to select a different shot. Let's open a new image and take a look at how we resize images. We go to the File menu and select Open. Then we browse to find the file we want to use. If you see an option to change the color profile, you can ignore this and press Cancel. Here's a square image. It's currently 800 pixels wide and 800 pixels tall, but we only want to show it at 300 pixels by 300 pixels. So we go to the Image menu and select the Scale Image option. This allows us to specify the width and height that we want the image to be. Because the drop-down menu here shows pixels, we see the size of the image in pixels. So we change the width to 300 pixels. Because the link option is selected, when we change the width of the image, the height will change in proportion to the width. This will happen as soon as we move out of the text box. With this icon, if there's a gap between the links in the chain, it'll only adjust the width or height, not both. We press Scale and the image is resized. Now the image is smaller and we can use the Save option. In the new window, we see an important option called Quality. We can reduce this setting for most JPEGs down to around 70 without noticing a visible difference. This creates a smaller file which should load faster. Let's look at a more complicated situation. This time we want to create another image that's 300 pixels square, but the picture we're using is not square. It's a portrait shot. A portrait image is taller than it is wide. Before we resize this image, it's worth noting that this image has been saved as a GIF file. GIF images use a limited color palette to make the file size of the image smaller, so before we resize this image, we change the image mode to RGB. You only need to worry about this step for GIF images. If we just make the height of this image 300 pixels, it will be 199 pixels wide, because it's not square. GIMP has the concept of a canvas on which a picture is created, so we need to increase the size of the canvas by going to the Image menu and selecting Canvas Size. In this dialog box, we set the width to be 300 pixels. You can see that this adds a box around the image indicating the new size of the canvas. We can click on the image and drag it to where we want the image to appear within the new canvas. At the moment it's to the left of the canvas, but we could move it across to the right. At the bottom of this window, you need to make sure that the Resize Layers option does not say None. We will select All Layers. We now press the Resize button to resize the canvas. Since this image is on a solid color background, we can take the Color Picker tool, which allows us to find the background color of the image, and we can fill in the gaps using the Bucket Fill tool. We now have an image that's the correct size for use on our site, and we can save it. But what happens if we have an image that's not on a solid background? In this case, we cannot fill in the missing parts of the picture in the same way. So, we're just going to select part of the image. To do this, we use the Crop tool and select the area of the image that we want to appear. Once you've made your initial selection, you can adjust it by clicking and dragging on the boxes in the corner of the image. You can see the size of the selection you've made in the bottom of the window here. Once you have your selection, you can press the Enter key or the Return key to crop the image. Now we can save this image ready for use on our site. So, if your website design requires images of a specific shape, you need to pick images carefully that are large enough and that will fit into the shape that you allocated in the design of your site. Alternatively, you can crop images, so long as you're not going to lose important detail from the shot. This tutorial is an accompaniment to the book HTML and CSS. To find out more, visit the website at html and cssbook.com.